wind howled through the Wyoming peaks. A single gunshot rang out. Then silence. Against the white snow, a streak of blood spread slowly. Dark, crimson. Beside it lay a severed rope, its frayed end still tangled with strands of black hair. In the distance, smoke curled from the chimney of a lone wooden cabin. Inside that chimney, a fire still burned, as if waiting for someone to come home. But the man riding through the valley didn't know yet. He only knew that something had shifted. In the air. In the way the crows had gone silent on the dead pine branches. 3 years after the war, they said the ghosts had been buried. They were wrong. This winter would forgive no one. The cold came down like a fist, hard, sharp, unforgiving. Silas Brennan felt it in his teeth, in his lungs. In the old scar tissue that ran down his left side, where a Confederate bayonet had tried to kill him 3 years back, didn't quite finish the job. Nothing ever did. He leaned forward in the saddle. His horse's breath came out in white clouds. The snow beneath them crunched, brittle. Frozen solid for weeks now. January in the Wyoming mountains wasn't weather. It was punishment. Silas pulled his collar higher. Not that it helped. Cold like this didn't care about wool or leather, or how many layers a man wrapped around himself. It found the gaps, always did. He'd been riding since dawn, checking fence lines, looking for strays. The Henderson Ranch didn't pay him much, but it paid. And out here, alone on horseback with nothing but wind and silence, he could almost forget the war had ended in '65. 3 years gone. But Silas still heard the screams, still saw the faces, still woke up reaching for a rifle that wasn't there anymore. He told himself the silence helped. Told himself if he stayed away from people long enough, the ghosts would stop following. They never did. His cabin sat 2 hours north of Ridge Creek, the town proper, where people gathered and gossiped and pretended life made sense. Silas avoided it when he could, once a month for supplies. No more. He didn't need people. People needed things from you, expected things. Asked questions you didn't want to answer, like why you lived alone, why you never smiled, why you flinched when a door slammed shut. Silas touched the brim of his hat, adjusted it against the wind. His gloves were worn thin at the fingertips. He could feel the cold seeping through, feel the rains cutting into his palms. Good. Pain meant you were still alive. The sun hung low, pale and useless behind the gray clouds. Silas had another hour of riding before he reached the northern boundary. Then he'd turn back, make it home before full dark if he was lucky. He scanned the ridge line, old habit, looking for movement, for shapes that didn't belong. The war had taught him that, taught him to see the world as a series of threats, potential ambush points, lines of fire. Escape routes, he'd tried to unlearn it, tried to see trees as just trees, hills as just hills, never worked. His horse picked its way through a narrow gap between two boulders. The path here was treacherous, ice hidden under fresh powder. One wrong step and they'd both go down. Easy, girl, Silas murmured. The horse's ears flicked back, listening, trusting. Animals were easier than people. They didn't lie, didn't pretend, didn't ask why you preferred solitude to society. They just were. Silas thought about the cabin waiting for him. Cold now, dark, the fire dead in the stove. He'd have to rebuild it, cook something, eat alone at the table he'd built for one. Same as every night. He told himself he was content, that this life, this isolation, was what he'd chosen. Most days he even believed it. He rode along the tree line, eyes scanning, always scanning, old habits, from the war. When not scanning meant dyings, that's when he saw it, a shape dark against the snow, too still to be an animal, too small to be a fallen tree. Silas pulled the reins. His horse stopped, snorted, uneasy. He sat there, watching, waiting. Could be a trap, could be nothing. Could be someone playing dead to lure a fool close enough to rob. Happened more than people thought out here. Desperation made men clever, made them cruel. But something pulled at him. Some old instinct he thought he'd buried with everything else. He dismounted. Slow, hand resting on the colt at his hip, The snow crunched under his boots. Loud in the stillness. He approached, step by step. Ready to draw, the shape didn't move. Silas circled wide, keeping distance, looking for tracks, for signs of others nearby. Nothing, just the wind, just the endless white. He moved closer. It was a woman. She lay curled against a fallen pine, her arms wrapped tight around herself, her face buried in the crook of her elbow. Snow had drifted over her legs, over her hair, like the world was trying to erase her. Silas stopped. His breath caught. She wasn't moving. He crouched down, pulled his glove off, pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Cold, so cold his fingers almost recoiled. But there, faint, a pulse, still alive. Barely, her skin was bronze, native, her hair black and stiff with frost. The deerskin dress she wore had been torn. One strap snapped. The fabric ripped along her ribs and thigh, bare skin showing through, bruised, raw in places. Silas' jaw tightened. Someone had hurt her. Left her here to die. He pulled his hand back, looked around again, scanning the tree line, listening hard. No tracks but his own, no sounds but the wind. Whoever had done this was gone. Long gone. He looked back at her, at the way her body had curled inward, trying to hold on to warmth that wasn't there anymore. Her lips were blue, her fingers like ice. How long had she been here? Hours? Days? Silas checked the snow around her, disturbed, but covered over. At least 1 full day, maybe 2. That she was still breathing was a miracle or a curse, depending on how you looked at it. He should leave. That's what the smart part of him said. The part that had survived 3 years of war by not taking on fights that weren't his. She's not your problem. You don't know what she did, what trouble she's running from. Walk away. But his hands were already moving, sliding under her shoulders, under her knees, lifting. She was light, too light. Her body rigid with cold, her head lolling against his chest. Silas carried her to his horse. The animal shifted, nervous, smelling death close. Easy, Silas murmured, his voice rough, unused to speaking. He settled her across the saddle, pulled himself up behind her, wrapped his coat around her shoulders. It wouldn't be enough. Not nearly. But it was all he had. The ride back took forever. Silas kept one arm around her, holding her steady, keeping her from sliding off. Her breath came shallow, uneven, each exhale so faint he had to lean close to hear it. Don't die. He didn't know why that mattered. Didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but he'd left enough people behind. In the war, in the mud and blood and smoke. Not again, not this time. The sun dropped lower, the temperature with it. Silas felt the cold biting deeper, felt it in his chest. His bones, the woman in his arms, didn't move, didn't make a sound, just that faint breath. He urged his horse faster, as fast as he dared on the icy ground. The cabin. He just needed to reach the cabin then. Maybe he could save her, if it wasn't already too late. By the time the cabin came into view, his arm was numb, his shoulder burning. The sky had gone gray, heavy with the promise of more snow. He kicked the door open, carried her inside, set her down on the bed, the only bed. Narrow and plain, and made with military corners, because old habits died hard. The cabin was cold. He'd let the fire die before leaving that morning. Now he cursed himself for it. He moved fast, built up the fire until it roared, filled the kettle, set it on the stove, pulled every blanket he owned and piled them over her. Lips were blue. Her fingers curled like claws. Silas knelt beside the bed, chafed her hands between his, trying to bring warmth back into them, trying to pull her back from whatever edge she was teetering on. Come on, he said, his voice low, urgent. Don't quit now, she didn't respond. He worked through the night, kept the fire blazing, warmed broth and spooned it between her lips. Most of it dribbled back out, but some went down. Had to count for something. Her eyes flickered open once. Just for a moment, dark eyes, confused. Afraid, she looked at him, at his face hovering over hers. Then her lids sank shut again. Silas sat back, ran a hand through his hair. His fingers came away, damp with sweat despite the cold. He should have left her. That thought kept circling. Over and over, this was going to bring trouble. He could feel it already, settling into his bones like the cold. But when he looked at her, at the way her chest rose and fell under the blankets, he couldn't regret it. Not yet. The hours passed slow. Silas added wood to the fire, checked her pulse, her breathing, changed the damp cloth on her forehead. He'd done this before, in the war, tended wounded men in field hospitals, watched some live, watched most die. He knew the signs, knew when a body was fighting, when it was giving up. This woman, she was fighting, stubborn good. Stubborn meant survival. Near midnight, her breathing changed, steadied, deepened. Silas leaned closer, touched her forehead, warmer, not warm, but warmer. He allowed himself a breath. Just one. She might make it, might. Dawn came pale and grudging. Silas sat in the chair by the bed, his Colt on the table beside him. He hadn't slept, just watched, waiting for her to stop breathing, waiting for the decision to save her, to turn into the decision that got him killed. Neither happened. She stirred as light crept through the shutters. Her head turned on the pillow, her fingers flexed. Silas leaned forward, her eyes opened, slower this time, more aware. She looked at him, then at the room, the rough timber walls, the fire still crackling, the rifle hanging above the door. Her body went rigid. Easy, Silas said, his voice quiet, steady. You're safe. She didn't believe him. He could see it in the way her hand slid under the blanket, searching for a weapon that wasn't there. You were dying, Silas said, in the snow. I brought you here. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't speak, just watched him, measuring smart. Silas stood slow, keeping his hands visible, moved to the stove, poured water into a tin cup, set it on the table beside the bed. Drink if you want, he said. I'm not stopping you from leaving. But you won't make it far in this cold. Not without gear. He turned his back, gave her space, pretended to busy himself with the fire. Behind him, he heard the bed creak, heard her shift, the cup scraping against wood as she picked it up. He waited, listened to her drink. Small sips. Careful. After a long moment, she spoke. Why? Her voice startled him. Rough, hoarse, but clear. Silas turned. She was sitting up now, the blanket pulled tight around her shoulders, her hair falling wild around her face. Why what? He asked. Why did you save me? Silas studied her, the defiance in her eyes, the fear underneath it. Couldn't leave you, he said simply. Why not? He didn't have a good answer for that. Not one that made sense. Didn't seem right, he said finally. She watched him, silent. Then her gaze dropped to the cup in her hands. I'm Kiona, she said. Quiet, Silas. She nodded. Took another sip. Her hand shook, just slightly. How long was I out there? Don't know. At least a day. Maybe two, and you just found me? Yes. Why were you riding that far out? Checking fence lines. She absorbed this, her eyes never leaving his face. Where am I? My cabin. 2 hours north of Ridge Creek. Ridge Creek. She tested the name, shook her head. Don't know it. Small town. 200 people, maybe less, and they'll know I'm here? Silas didn't answer right away, just poured himself coffee. Took a sip. Eventually, he said. Word spreads. Kiona's face tightened. Her hand gripped the cup harder. Then I need to leave. Now. You won't make it. I'll try. You'll die. She looked at him. Hard. Better than what's waiting for me. Silas set his coffee down, crossed his arms. What's waiting for you? Kiona's jaw clenched. She looked away. Doesn't matter. It does if they're coming here. They will. When they find out, who? Silence. Silas waited. Didn't push. Just waited. Finally, Kiona spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. The man who owns me. Those words hit like a fist. Owns. Like she was livestock. Property. Silas turned. Slow. Nobody owns you, he said. Her laugh was bitter. Sharp. Tell him that I will. She looked up. Surprise flickering across her face. Silas met her eyes. Held them. You're under my roof now, he said. That means something. You don't know what you're saying? I know exactly what I'm saying. Kiona stared at him, like she was trying to figure out if he was lying. If this was some new kind of trap. He's powerful, she said. Rich, has men. Guns. So you're one man, living alone. What can you do? Silas picked up his Colt, checked the cylinder, set it back down. Enough, he said. Kiona shook her head. You don't understand. The law. The law is on his side. Then the law's wrong. That doesn't matter. He has papers. Legal papers. Says he bought me from a crow trader 6 months ago. Silas's stomach turned. Bought. Yes, people aren't. You can't buy people. You can if the law says you can. Silas wanted to argue, to say she was wrong, that this was America, that the war had ended slavery. But he knew better. The war had ended one kind of slavery. Not all kinds, not for everyone. He looked at her, really looked, at the bruises on her arms, the raw skin on her wrists, the way she held herself, coiled, ready to run or fight. What's his name? Silas asked. Why? Because I want to know who I'm dealing with. Kiona studied him. Measuring. Dalton Mercer. She said finally the name meant nothing to Silas. But he filed it away. And you ran. Yes, when 4 days ago. Maybe 5. I lost track. How far is his ranch? I don't know. I ran at night. Through the woods. I just ran. Silas nodded. You have family? People who might help? Her face closed. No. They're all gone. I'm sorry. She didn't respond. Just stared into her cup. Silas turned back to the stove, gave her space. Outside, the wind picked up. Rattling the shutters, he added another log to the fire. You should rest, he said. Build your strength back then? Then we figure out what comes next. Kiona looked at him, her eyes dark. Unreadable. You should have left me, she whispered. Probably you'll regret this, maybe. She looked up again. Searching his face, Silas just shrugged, turned back to the fire. Behind him, Kiona was silent. But he could feel her watching, feel the weight of her stare. He'd made his choice. Now he'd live with it. 3 days passed. Kiona didn't speak much, mostly watched. Like she was waiting for him to reveal whatever game he was playing. Sis didn't push, just went about his routine, staked wood. The axe biting deep into frozen logs. The rhythm steady. Predictable. Checked the traps. Came back with 2 rabbits, skinned them outside, cooked them slow over the fire. Offered her food without comment when she was ready. She ate, slow at first, then hungrier. Like her body was remembering what it needed. On the second day, she stood on her own. Walked to the window. Looked out at the endless white. Silas watched from the corner of his eye, saw how she moved. Stiff. Careful. Like someone who'd learned to be ready for pain. How far to the nearest town? She asked. Ridge Creek. 2 hours by horse. They'll know I'm here, probably. She turned. Eyes sharp. And you don't care? Silas set down the knife he'd been sharpening. I care. Just not enough to throw you back out. Why? That question again. Silas stood. Crossed to where she stood. She tensed, but didn't back away. He looked past her. Out at the snow. At the mountains beyond. I left a lot of men behind in the war, he said quietly. Told myself I was following orders, doing what I had to. Boss paused. His throat tight, but the truth is I was scared. And I let them die because of it. Kiona said nothing. So no, Silas continued. I'm not leaving you. Not this time. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Kiona spoke. Her voice softer now. My husband died defending our camp. They came at night, killed the men. Took the women. She wrapped her arms around herself. I was sold, like a horse. To a man named Dalton Mercer. Silas nodded. Kept his face neutral. Didn't let the anger show. I ran, Kiona said. When his men were drunk, celebrating. I slipped my bonds. Took a knife. Got outside. They chase you? Yes, for the first day. Then I hit the river, followed it upstream. Lost them in the rocks. Smart, I thought. I thought if I could just get far enough. Deep enough into the mountains. They'd give up. They didn't. No. They caught me 3 days ago. Beat me. Said they'd drag me back. She touched her ribs. Winced, but one of them. He wanted. He tried to. She stopped. Couldn't finish. Silas's hands clenched. The others stopped him, he asked. No, they watched. Laughed. Until I grabbed a rock. Hit him. Hard. You killed him? I don't know. Maybe. There was blood. So much blood. And then I ran again. But I was so tired. So cold. Her voice cracked. I couldn't anymore. So I stopped. Lay down. Closed my eyes. And I found you. Yes, Silas let that sit. Let the weight of it settle. This woman had survived. Had fought, had refused to quit, until she couldn't fight anymore. And even then, even in her last moments, she'd chosen the cold over captivity. You won't have to run again, Silas said. Kiona looked at him. Really looked. Like she was trying to see past the words to the man underneath. You can't promise that. No, Silas admitted. But I can try. Her eyes glistened. Just for a moment. Then she turned away. Silas let her have the space. Went back to his knife. Back to the familiar rhythm of steel on stone. Outside, snow began to fall again. On the fourth day, Silas rode into Ridge Creek. He needed supplies, salt, flour, coffee. Things that couldn't wait. Kiona stayed at the cabin. He'd left her the rifle. Showed her how to bar the door from inside. Anyone comes, he'd said. You shoot first. Ask questions never. She'd nodded, solemn, her hand steady on the rifle. Now Silas rode down the main street of Ridge Creek. The town was small, maybe 200 souls on a good day. Most of them huddled indoors against the cold. A few heads turned as he passed. Silas kept his eyes forward. Didn't acknowledge them, but he felt their stares. Felt the weight of their judgment. Word had spread. Somehow. It always did in small towns. He tied his horse outside Marshall's general store. Stepped inside. The warmth hit him first. Then the smell. Tobacco and leather, and the sharp tang of pickled goods. Marshall stood behind the counter. A thin man with a thinner mustache. He looked up, his expression souring the moment he recognized Silas. Brennan, Marshall. Silas pulled a list from his pocket. Set it on the counter. Marshall glanced at it. Then back at Silas. This is a lot of food for one man, that right? You entertaining company? Silas's jaw tightened. Just fill the order. Marshall leaned back, arms crossed. Word is you brought someone back from the mountains? So it had started already. The talk, the questions. That's my business, Silas said. It's the town's business when you bring trouble. I'm not bringing trouble, no? Marshall's eyes narrowed. What kind of woman you got up there, Brennan? Silas's hand moved. Not to his gun, just his belt. A subtle shift. Marshall noticed. Swallowed. Fill the order, Silas said again. Quiet. Dangerous. Marshall hesitated. Then nodded. Started pulling items off the shelves. Behind Silas. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. He turned. Two men entered. Ranch hands from the Henderson spread. Silas recognized them. Miller and Sykes, they saw him. Stopped, Brennan, Miller said. His voice flat. Miller. Heard you got yourself a house guest. Silas didn't respond. Indian, they're saying. Cheyenne, maybe? That's my business, is it? Sykes stepped closer. Because Mr. Henderson. He's wondering. If you're still planning to work his ranch, or if you're too busy playing house. Silas turned to face them, full on. I'll be at work Monday. Like always, Henderson says maybe you shouldn't bother. Says a man who harbors trouble. Ain't a man he wants working for him, the words landed. Heavy Silas had expected this, but it still hit. Losing the ranch job meant losing his income, his way to buy supplies, his connection to the town. It meant isolation. Complete that Henderson's words? Silas asked. Or yours? Miller shrugged. Does it matter? It does. Why? Because if it's his words, I'll talk to him direct if it's yours. I'll deal with you right here. The threat was clear. Miller's hand drifted toward his belt. Where a knife hung, Sykes put a hand on his arm. Not worth it. They stared at each other. The store gone silent, finally. Miller stepped back. Henderson's words, he said. Straight from the man himself, then I'll write out. Talk to him. Won't change anything. He's made up his mind, Silas nodded. We'll see. Miller and Sykes left. The door slamming behind them. Marshall finished bagging the supplies. Wouldn't meet Silas's eyes. How much? Silas asked. Marshall told him. The price higher than usual, Silas paid. Didn't argue. When he turned to leave, Marshall spoke. Brennan. He stopped. Looked back. Marshall stood in the doorway. His face tight. Whatever you're doing, Marshall said. It won't end well. Silas held his gaze. I'll remember you said that, he said. Then he mounted his horse and rode. Out the town watched him go, silent, judging. Silas didn't look back. He was halfway back to the cabin when he heard hoofbeats behind him. Silas slowed, his hand drifting to his Colt. A rider appeared. Alone. Riding hard, Silas recognized him. Jeb Cutler, a bounty hunter who worked the territory. Mean. Good with a gun. Greedy Cutler pulled up alongside. Grinning, "Silas Brennan," Cutler said. His voice carrying that false cheer men used when they wanted something. "Been a while. Not long enough." Cutler laughed. "Heard you got yourself a house guest." Silas said nothing. "Heard she's Cheyenne," continued Cutler. "Pretty thing. Damaged goods, but still." Silas's hand tightened on the reins. "See, that's interesting to me," Cutler said, "because there's a man down south, Dalton Mercer. He's looking for a Cheyenne woman. Lost property, he calls it." Silas's blood went cold. "He's offering $50 for her return," Cutler said. "Alive and unharmed, she's not property. Law says different." "Law's wrong," Cutler's grin widened. "Maybe, but $50 is $50. He leaned closer, his breath visible in the cold. "You got two choices, Brennan. Hand her over peaceful-like, or I come take her. Either way, she's going back." Silas turned in his saddle, faced Cutler full on. "You can try," he said, his voice flat. "Cold, but you won't make it past my door." Cutler's grin faltered. "Just a fraction, you threatening me?" "Promising." They stared at each other, the wind howling between them. Cutler's hand drifted to his gun. Silas watched. Ready, but Cutler didn't draw. Finally, he laughed. But it sounded forced. "Your funeral, Brennan." He spurred his horse, rode off. Silas watched him go, watched until he was just a speck against the white. Then he turned, rode hard for the cabin, his mind racing. Cutler would go to Mercer. Tell him where to find Kiona. That meant, what, 2 days? 3? Not much time. Silas kicked his horse faster. He needed to warn her, prepare, figure out what the hell they were going to do. Kiona was waiting when he burst through the door. She had the rifle raised, pointed at his chest. "It's me," Silas said. "Hands up." She lowered the gun. "Slowly, you came back fast. We got a problem." He told her about Cutler, about Mercer, about the $50. Kiona's face went pale. Then hard. "I should go." She said, "No, he'll come for me. He'll bring others. Let him, you can't fight them all." Silas crossed to her, took the rifle gently from her hands, set it aside. "Listen to me," he said. "I'm not letting them take you. I don't care how many come. I don't care who they are. Why?" Her voice broke. "Why do you care?" Silas looked at her. Really looked. At the fear in her eyes. The exhaustion. The faint hope she was trying so hard to bury. "Because," he said quietly, "I already lost everyone I cared about by doing nothing. I'm not doing that again." Kiona's eyes filled. She looked away, wiped at them roughly. "You're a fool," she whispered. "Probably." She laughed, bitter, but real. Silas stepped back, gave her space. "We got time," he said. "Cutler will go to Mercer first. That's at least 2 days' ride. Maybe 3 in this weather, and then we see what kind of man Dalton Mercer really is." Kiona wrapped her arms around herself. "I know what kind of man he is. Tell me." She walked to the window, stared out at the white. He's not cruel for pleasure. That's what makes him worse." Silas waited. "He's practical," Kiona continued. "He sees the world as things he can use, people, animals, land, all the same to him." "How'd you end up with him?" "The Crow. After my husband died, after the raid, they took the women. Some they kept, some they sold." Her voice was flat, empty. "Mercer was there. At the trading post. He looked at us like horses, checked our teeth, our hands, asked if we could cook. So, and he bought you, yes. For 2 rifles and a bolt of cloth." Silas's hands clenched. "He took me to his ranch. Big place, south of here, had other women there. Mexican, Chinese, 1 white girl, all property." "What did he make you do?" "Clean, cook, men clothes. He didn't. He never touched us." "Not like that. Then why run?" Kiona turned, her eyes hard. "Because I'd rather die free than live as a thing." Silas nodded. "Understood. How many men does he have at the ranch?" "Maybe 10, maybe more. He has money, lots of it. can hire as many as he needs, and the law? He has papers, legal. Says I'm his property, bought and paid for. We could fight it. In court, Kiona laughed. Sharp. You think a court will side with me, an Indian woman, against a rich white man? She had a point. Then we don't fight legal, Silas said. What does that mean? Means I keep safe. By whatever means necessary. You'll end up dead. Maybe, definitely. Silas picked up his Colt, checked the cylinder, started loading extra rounds into his belt. Then I'll die standing, he said. That night, they sat by the fire, the cabin warm. The wind howling outside, Silas cleaned his guns, one by one. The Colt, the rifle, the spare pistol he kept hidden under the floorboards. Kiona watched, her knees pulled up, arms wrapped around them. You said you lost people, she said. In the war. Silas nodded. Didn't look up. Tell me, he paused. The cleaning cloth still in his hand. Not much to tell, he said. We were in Virginia. Cold, wet, outnumbered. He set the cylinder back into the frame, spun it. Listening to the click, we got orders to retreat, leave the wounded. I followed orders. His jaw tightened. 3 men were still alive when we left. They called out. Begged us to come back. He looked up. Met Kiona's eyes. I didn't go back. Kiona was quiet for a long time. Were you afraid? She asked, terrified. Then you're human. Silas shook his head. Being afraid doesn't make it right. No, Kiona said. But it makes it understandable. Silas looked down at the gun in his hands. I told myself I'd never be that man again, he said quietly. The one who walks away, and now I don't walk away. Kiona studied him. Then slowly she unfolded herself. Nas crossed to where he sat. She knelt beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. Thank you, she said. Soft. Simple. Silas looked at her, at the firelight playing across her face, at the strength in her eyes despite everything. Don't thank me yet, he said. But he didn't pull away from her touch. They sat like that, the fire crackling. The wind outside. After a while, Kiona spoke again. My husband. His name was Dakota. It means friend to everyone. Silas listened. He was kind, patient, taught me to ride, to track, to see the world as something beautiful, not something to fear. Her voice caught when they came. The raiders. He told me to run, to take the other women and run. But I couldn't leave him. What happened? He fought. Killed 2 of them before they shot him. I saw him fall, saw the blood. And then someone hit me, and when I woke up, I was bound. In a wagon. She wiped her eyes. I should have run when he told me to. You loved him? Yes. Then you did the right thing. Staying. He died. But you were there. At the end. That matters. Kiona looked at him, her eyes searching. Does it? Yes. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Just for a moment, Silas let her. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Let her be. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, 2 broken people sat together, and for the first time in a long time, neither felt alone. The next morning dawned clear, cold, the sky a pale blue. Silas woke to find Kiona already up, standing at the window, watching the sun rise. You sleep? He asked. A little. Always. He understood. After breakfast, Silas took her outside, set up empty cans on the fence rail, handed her his Colt. It's heavy, she said. Surprised. It's meant to be. He showed her how to stand. Feet shoulder width. Knees slightly bent. Don't lock your elbows, he said. Let them flex. Absorb the recoil. She adjusted her stance now. Breathe. In, out, on the exhale. Squeeze. Don't pull. She fired. The shot went wide. The can stayed put. Again, she fired. Missed. You're anticipating the recoil. Flinching before it happens. How do I stop? Practice. Trust the yourself. She tried again, and again. On the 6th shot, a can flew off the rail. Kaikena's face lit up, just for a moment. Then she caught herself. Smoothed the expression away, but Silas had seen it. That flash of joy better, he said. They practiced until the sun climbed higher, until her hands were steady, until 3 out of 5 cans fell. Silas watched her. The way she learned. Quick, focused. The way she held the gun. With respect. Not fear. You've shot before, he said. My husband taught me. But we only had an old rifle. This is Different, pistols harder, close range. Demands precision. I like it, good. Because you might need it? The reminder hung between them. Kiona handed the gun back. Her fingers brushing his, neither pulled away quickly. Thank you, she said. Don't mention it. But something had shifted. Some invisible line crossed. They walked back to the cabin, side by side, the distance between them smaller than before. 2 days later, a visitor came. Silas heard the horse before he saw it, stood from where he'd been splitting wood. His hand moving to his hip, the rider came into view, older, wearing a star pinned to his coat. Sheriff Rhett Caldwell. Silas set the axe down. Waited. Caldwell dismounted, slow, his joints stiff from the cold and the years. Silas, he said, Sheriff. Caldwell looked past him, at the cabin, at the smoke curling from the chimney. You got a woman in there? Not a question, I do. She Cheyenne? She is, Caldwell sighed, pulled off his gloves, tucked them in his belt. You know a man named Dalton Mercer came to see me yesterday, he said. Silas said nothing. Showed me papers, Caldwell continued. Legal papers. Says he purchased a Cheyenne woman from a Crow trader 6 months back. Says she ran off. Says you got her, she's not property. Law says she is. Then the law's wrong. Caldwell looked at him. Sad. Tired, Silas, I know you. You're a good man. But this ain't a fight you can win. Watch me. Mercer's got money, got lawyers, got men who'll do what he says without question so? So, you're one man, living no family, no standing. Caldwell stepped closer, his voice dropping. He can take her back, he said, and there's nothing you can do about it. Not legally, Silas met his eyes. Then I guess I'll do it illegally. Caldwell closed his eyes, shook his head. Don't make me arrest you, son. Then don't. They stood facing each other, old man and young, law and conscience. The cabin door opened. Kiona stepped out, wrapped in one of Silas's shirts, too big for her. She looked at Caldwell, at the star on his chest. Caldwell looked back, his face softening. Just a fraction, ma'am, he said. Kiona said nothing. I'm sorry, Caldwell said. I truly am. But the law is wrong, Kiona said. Her voice steady, I know. But I still have to enforce it. When? I'll give you a week, Caldwell said, looking at Silas. That's all I can do. After that, if Mercer comes with a writ, I have to enforce it, and if we're gone, Silas asked, then I can't enforce what I can't find. He put his gloves back on, mounted his horse. For what it's worth, Caldwell said. I hope you figure something out, Sheriff, Silas called. Caldwell looked back. Why a week? Why give us that? Caldwell was quiet for a moment because, he said, I got a daughter, about her age, and I'd want someone to help her. If she needed it, then he rode away. Silas watched him go, watched until he disappeared into the trees. When he turned back, Kiona was standing beside him. 1 week, she said. 1 week, Silas agreed, and then we make our stand. Kiona looked at him, her eyes dark. Serious, or we run, I don't run. You should, for this. You should, Silas took her hand. Held it. No, he said. Not anymore. The days that followed were strange. Quit. Almost peaceful. Silas and Kiona fell into a rhythm. He'd wake early, build up the fire. She'd make coffee. They'd eat in silence. Comfortable silence. During the day, Silas worked, fixing fence, chopping wood, checking traps. Kiona stayed close to the cabin, mended her dress, cleaned, organized his meager supplies with an efficiency that made him wonder what kind of life she'd lived before. She was good with her hands, quick, precise. She took his torn shirt, the one with the ripped seam, fixed it in an hour, better than new. Where'd you learn that, he asked. My mother. She was the best seamstress in our village. She teach you other things? How to tan hides, make medicine from plants, read the weather, useful skills. Not useful enough to keep her alive, the words were bitter. Silas didn't push. In the evenings they sat by the fire. Sometimes they talked. Small things. Weather. Work. Memories that didn't hurt too much. Silas told her about his childhood. Growing up in Ohio, his father a blacksmith, his mother a teacher, both dead now. Fever took them during the war. Kiona told him about the buffalo hunts, the long migrations, The ceremony she could barely remember. We were free, she said before. Before everything changed. What changed? White men, settlers. Treaties that meant nothing. Promises broken before the ink dried. She looked at him. No offense. None taken. You're different, am I? Yes, you see me. Not what I represent. Not what you think I should be. Just me. Silas didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. On the fifth night, Kiona asked him something unexpected. Have you thought about leaving here? Ridge Creek, Wyoming, the territories. All of it, Silas considered. Where would I go? I don't know, Fornia. Oregon. Somewhere new. Why? Because here you're known. People have opinions, expectations. But somewhere new. You could be anyone. I'm not running from who I am, I know. But sometimes a fresh start. It helps. Silas looked at her. Is that what you want? A fresh start? Kiona's eyes dropped. I want to not be property, to not be hunted, to just exist. You do exist, here. Now, for how long? Silas didn't have an answer to that. On the sixth night, a storm came. Not just snow. A blizzard. Wind that shook the cabin walls. Snow so thick Silas couldn't see the fence rail from the window. He built up the fire, blocked the gaps in the shutters with rags. Made sure they had enough wood stacked inside. Kiona watched him work. Nervous, how long will it last? She asked. Could be hours, could be days, and if someone comes? They won't. Not in this. But he checked his guns anyway. Made sure they were loaded. Within reach, the temperature dropped. Fast. Even with the fire roaring, cold seeped through. Found the cracks. The gaps. Silas piled every blanket they had onto the bed. You should sleep there, he said. Stay warm. What about you? I'll be fine in the chair. Don't be stupid. There's room. Silas hesitated. Kiona patted the space beside her. I'm not afraid of you, she said. I know. Then don't be afraid of me. He wasn't afraid. Not exactly, but this was different. Still, the cold was biting deeper. And the chair wasn't going to cut it. He climbed onto the bed. Stayed on his side, careful not to crowd her. Kiona pulled the blankets over both of them. The warmth was immediate. Shared body heat pushing back the cold. They lay there, side by side. Not touching for a long time, neither spoke. Then Kiona's voice. Soft in the darkness, Silas? Yeah, thank you. For everything. You don't have to thank me, I do. Because I was ready to die. Out there in the snow. I wanted to. Her voice cracked, and then you brought me back, gave me a reason to try again. Silas turned his head, looked at her. In the firelight, her eyes glistened. You gave yourself that reason, he said. I just didn't let you quit. Same thing, no. It's not, she turned toward him. Their faces close now, Silas. I need you to know, if Mercer comes, if he takes me, I won't blame you. He's not taking you. You can't promise that. I can try, and if trying gets you killed, then I die knowing I did the right thing. Kiona's hand found his, under the blankets. Their fingers intertwined. You're a strange man, Silas Brennan. So I've been told. She smiled small. Real, and then, without planning it, without thinking, she leaned forward, pressed her lips to his, soft, tentative. Silas froze, his mind stuttering. Then he kissed back, gentle, careful. When they broke apart, both breathing harder, Kiona rested her forehead against his. This doesn't have to mean anything, she whispered. Yes, it does, Silas said. She pulled back. Looked at him. What does it mean? It means I care. About you. About what happens to you. Just care? Silas swallowed. More than care. Kiona's eyes searched his face, then she kissed him again. Deeper this time. And Silas. Silas let himself feel it. Let himself want it. For the first time in 3 years. For the first time since the war, he let himself hope. Morning came with unexpected quiet. The storm had passed. The world outside buried under fresh white. Silas woke to warmth. To Kiona's head on his chest, her arm across his waist, he stayed still. Not wanting to wake her, not wanting this moment to end, but she stirred. Her eyes opening, for a second confusion, then memory, then Something else, not regret, something softer. Morning, she said. Morning. They lay there, neither moving. Finally, Kiona spoke. Last night. Was that okay? More than okay. I haven't. Not since my husband. I know, and you? Have you? Have there been others? No. Not since before the war. Why? Silas thought about it. Didn't seem right. To get close to someone when I couldn't feel anything, and now? He looked at her. Now I feel everything. Kiona's breath caught. Silas. I can't promise you anything. I don't know what tomorrow brings. Don't know if we even have a tomorrow. I know. And you're okay with that? I'd rather have today with you than 100 tomorrows alone. Kiona's eyes filled. She kissed him. Hard. Desperate. And for a while they forgot about Mercer, about the law, about everything waiting outside. They just were together. When they finally rose, the sun was high. Silas made breakfast. Kiona sat at the table, wearing his shirt again. They ate, talked, laughed at small things. For a few hours it felt normal, like they were just two people, building something. Not running from something. But the illusion couldn't last. Because that afternoon, when Silas went to check the perimeter, he found tracks. Fresh. Someone had been watching the cabin. Silas didn't tell Kiona right away, didn't want to scare her, but he prepared Loveland extra ammunition. Placed guns at strategic points. Made sure the cabin was secure. When Kiona asked what he was doing, he just said, being careful. She didn't believe him. He could tell, but she didn't push. That night, Silas didn't sleep, sat in the chair, gun across his lap. Watching waiting, dawn came gray and cold. And with it, horses. Silas heard them before he saw them. Multiple riders. Coming fast, Kiona, he said. Urgent. Get the rifle. Stay inside. What? Now, she grabbed the rifle. Moved to the window. Silas stepped outside. Closed the door behind him. 6 riders appeared. Coming up the trail. Leading them was a man Silas didn't recognize. Older. Well-dressed. Riding a horse that cost more than most men made in a year. Dalton Mercer. Had to be. Behind him rode Jeb Cutler and 4 others. Hard men. The kind who killed for money and slept fine after. Silas stood, his hand resting on his Colt. The riders stopped 20 feet from the cabin, Mercer in front. Smiling, Mr. Brennan, Mercer called out, his voice smooth, cultured. I believe we have business to discuss. Silas said nothing, just stood, his hand steady. Mercer's smile widened. You have something that belongs to me. I'm prepared to compensate you for the trouble of her care. Shall we say $100? She doesn't belong to you. The law says otherwise. The law's wrong, Mercer sighed. Like Silas was a child who didn't understand, Mr. Brennan? I'm trying to be reasonable here. I have the numbers, the legal right, but I'm offering you money. Good money. No? That's right. Mercer's smile faded. His eyes went cold. Then you're a fool. He raised his hand, gestured. Cutler and the others started to dismount. Silas drew. The Colt came up smooth, fast. The hammer clicking back. Everyone froze. Next man who moves, Silas said quietly. Dice. Mercer stared at him. Reassessing. You'd start a war over a woman, he asked. If I have to, you can't win. Maybe not. But I'll take 3 of you with me. Starting with you. The Colt pointed directly at Mercer's chest. Mercer's jaw tightened. But he didn't move. Long seconds passed. The wind the only sound. Finally, Mercer lowered his hand. Cutler. Stand down. Cutler hesitated, then stepped back. Mercer looked at Silas, his eyes hard as stone. This isn't over, he said. I know. I'll be back. With more men. With the law. I'll be waiting. Mercer turned his horse. The others following. They rode away slowly. Making a point, Silas didn't lower the gun until they were out of sight. Then his hand started shaking. The door opened behind him. Kiona stepped out. She didn't say anything. Just stood beside him. Her shoulder touching his. He'll come back, she said. Yes, with more, yes, you should let me go. Silas finally holstered the Colt. Turned to face her. No, he said. Silas, no, he took her hand. Held it tight. I don't care how many he brings, Silas said. I don't care what the law says. You're staying here. With me? Kiona's eyes filled. She looked down at their joined hands. Why? She whispered. Silas pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. Because, he said quietly. For the first time in 3 years, I have something worth fighting for. Kiona's arms came around him. Holding tight, they stood there. 2 people against the world. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low. Outside, storm clouds gathered. And somewhere south, Dalton Mercer was planning his return. February came quiet, too quiet. Silas kept expecting Mercer to return. Kept watching the tree line, listening for hoofbeats, nothing. Just silence and snow. And the slow passage of days, Kiona grew stronger. The hollow look in her cheeks filled out. Her movements became surer, less haunted. She took over cooking, insisted on it. Made things Silas had never tasted. Herbs she found in the woods, roots she dug from under the snow. Simple food, but good. They fell into something that felt like not just survival. On a Tuesday morning, Silas woke to the smell of coffee. Real coffee. Not the burnt sludge he usually made. Kiona stood at the stove, her hair braided down her back. Wearing one of his shirts over her mended dress, she turned when she heard him rise. You're awake, she said. How'd you know I was sleeping? I didn't snore. Your breathing changed. Silas sat up, the blanket falling to his waist. The cabin was warm. She'd been up for a while. Keeping the fire fed. You didn't have to do that, he said. I wanted to. She poured coffee into 2 tin cups, brought one to him, their fingers brushed as he took it. Neither pulled away. Mercer's been quiet, Kiona said. Too quiet. Maybe he gave up. Silas shook his head. Men like that don't give up. They plan. Kiona sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that their knees touched. How long do you think we have? Not long enough. She took a sip. Her eyes distant. I've been thinking, she said. About? Leaving. Not without you. But, both of us. Together, Silas set his cup down. Where would we go? North. Canada, maybe. They don't have the same laws there. He couldn't follow. You want to run. I want to live. Silas reached out. Took her hand. We can live here, can we? Or are we just waiting for the other boot to drop? He didn't have an answer to that. Kiona's other hand moved to her stomach, rested there. Silas noticed something in the gesture. Kiona, are you all right? She looked up, her eyes wet. I need to tell you something. His stomach dropped. What? She took a breath, let it out slow. I'm pregnant. The words didn't register at first. Then they hit like a fist. Pregnant. How long? He asked. His voice steady despite the storm in his chest. 3 months. Maybe a little more. I wasn't sure. Didn't want to say until I was certain. Silas sat back, the bed creaking under him. A baby. She was carrying a baby, is it? He started, then stopped, because it didn't matter. Did it? My husband's, Kiona said quietly. From before, Silas looked at her. At the fear in her eyes, the shame trying to hide it. He took her hand. Both hands now. Doesn't change anything, he said. How can you say that? Because it's true, Silas. I don't care whose child it is. You're here. That's what matters. Kiona's eyes filled. You can't mean that. I do, but it's not yours. It's another man's child. Silas pulled her close. Gentle. Careful. Listen to me, he said. That child is part of you, which means I'll love it. Protect it. Raise it like my own. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She broke then. Sobbing against his chest, Silas held her. Let her cry. Let her shake. All the fear. All the uncertainty. All the months of carrying this alone, it poured out. And when the tears finally stopped, she pulled back. Wiped her eyes. There's something else, she said. What? I've been bleeding. Just a little, but it won't stop. Silas's stomach turned. How much? Not much, but enough to worry me. We need to get you to a doctor. There's no doctor in Ridge Creek. Then we ride to the next town. That's 2 days. I don't care. Kiona grabbed his arm. Her face pale but set. Silas, stop. Listen to me. He stopped. I just need rest and medicine, herbs, things I know. What do you need? She told him. A list of plants. Roots, things he'd never heard of. I'll go to town, Silas said. See what Marshall has, if he doesn't have it. I'll ride further. It's dangerous. I don't care. Mercer could be watching. Let him watch. Kiona stood, swayed slightly. Silas caught her. You should rest, he said. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine, stubborn woman. Silas helped her back to the bed, tucked the blankets around her. Don't move, he said. Don't do anything. Just rest, Silas. Please. She looked at him, then nodded. Silas grabbed his coat. His gun. I'll be back before dark. You better be. He kissed her. Quick, hard. Then he was out the door. Ridge Creek felt different in daylight. Colder somehow. More hostile. Silas rode straight to Marshall's store. Didn't care who saw him. Marshall looked up when he entered, his face going tight. Brennan, I need medicine, Silas said. No preamble. For a woman. Pregnant. Bleeding. Marshall's expression flickered. Just for a moment. Something almost human, then it hardened again. Can't help you. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Silas stepped closer, his voice dropping. Marshall, I'm asking. Nicely. One time and I'm saying no. Why? Marshall leaned on the counter, his voice bitter, because Mercer came by this morning, with Sheriff Caldwell. They made it real clear. Anyone who helps you, anyone who sells to you, they'll be considered accomplices. Accomplices to what? Saving a life? To harboring stolen property. There was that word again. Property. Silas's hand moved to his gun. Marshall saw it. Went pale. Don't, Marshall said. Give me the medicine. I can't. Yes, you can, Silas. Give me the damn medicine before I take it. Marshall swallowed, his eyes flicking to the shelf behind him. Then the door opened. Sheriff Caldwell stepped in, his hand on his own gun. Problem here? Caldwell asked. Silas didn't turn. No problem, he said. Just buying supplies. Marshall's not selling to you. That right, Marshall? Marshall looked between them. That trapped, that's right, he said finally. Quiet. Silas's jaw clenched, his hand still on his Colt. Silas, Caldwell said, his voice tired. Don't make this worse. How could it be worse? I could arrest you right now. Take you in. Leave that woman alone up there. That stopped him. Silas turned. Slow. Caldwell looked older, more worn. I don't want to do that, the sheriff said. But I will if you force me. She's dying. She's not your problem. Yes, she is. Why? Because you slept with her. The words were meant to cut. They did. But Silas didn't flinch. Because she's mine, he said simply. And I take care of what's mine. Caldwell studied him, something shifting in his eyes. You really love her, he said. Not a question, yes. Even knowing what it'll cost? Especially knowing that. Caldwell sighed, pulled off his hat, ran a hand through thinning hair. You're a damn fool, Brennan. So I've been told. The sheriff looked at Marshall. Give him what he needs. But Mercer said. I don't care what Mercer said. A woman's life is at stake. A pregnant woman. He put his hat back on. Give him the medicine, Marshall. I'll deal with Mercer. Marshall hesitated, then nodded. Started pulling items off the shelf. Silas watched, not quite believing it. Why? He asked Caldwell. The sheriff headed for the door. Stopped because, he said, I got a daughter, about her age, and I'd want someone to help her. If she needed it. He looked back at Silas. This doesn't change anything, Caldwell said. Mercer's still coming, with more men. Legal authority, I know. You can't win. I can try. Caldwell shook his head. Sad when it happens, he said. When he comes. Don't resist. Don't give him an excuse to hurt her. Then he was gone. Marshall wrapped the supplies. Wouldn't meet Silas's eyes. How much? Silas asked. Just take it, Marshall. Just take it and go. Silas took the bundle. Left coins on the counter anyway. As he mounted his horse, he saw faces in windows, watching, judging. Let them judge. He had a woman to save. On the ride back, Silas made a detour to the church. Reverend Amos Finch answered on the first knock. Silas, the old man said, surprised. What brings you here? I need to talk. Finch stepped aside. Let him in. The church was small, plain. Just 4 walls and a steeple, but warm. A fire burned in the pot-belly stove. Finch gestured to a pew. Silas sat. The Reverend lowered himself down with a groan. Getting too old for this, he muttered. For what? Everything. He looked at Silas. His eyes sharp despite their age. Mercer came to see me, Finch said. Silas went still. When? Yesterday. Wanted me to convince you to give up the girl. What'd you say? Finch smiled. Thin, I told him to go to hell. Despite everything, Silas almost laughed. Bet he loved that. He threatened to burn the church. Said I was harboring a criminal. I'm sorry. Don't be. I've been threatened by better men. And worse. Finch leaned back, the pew creaking under him. You know he's building support, he said. Mercer, spreading money around. Making promises. What kind of promises? Jobs. Investment. He's telling people he'll bring prosperity if they help him recover his property. She's not property, I know that. You know that. But desperate people don't care about right and wrong. They care about survival. Silas's hands clenched. How many? Half the town. Maybe more. Damn the other half? Silas asked, scared, confused. Waiting to see which way the wind blows. And you? Finch met his eyes. I'm on the side of the righteous, he said. Which means I'm on your side. Something in Silas's chest loosened. Just a fraction. I need help, he said quietly. I know. Not just words. Not just prayers. What then? Silas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Sanctuary, he said. If things go bad, if I can't protect her, I need somewhere safe. Somewhere Mercer won't look. Finch was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. The church is always open, he said. Day or night. You bring her here. I'll keep her safe. You could lose everything. I could. But what's the point of faith if you don't live it? Silas stood, offered his hand. Finch took it, his grip still strong. Thank you, Silas said. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long road ahead, I know. Finch walked him to the door, stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. One more thing, the Reverend said. What? That woman. Kiona. You love her? The question caught Silas off guard, did he? He thought about the way she moved through the cabin, the way her hand found his in the dark, the way she smiled when she thought he wasn't looking, the way his chest tightened when he thought about losing her. Yes, he said. Surprised by how easy the word came, Finch nodded. Like he'd expected that answer. Then I'd like it, he said, because love without courage is just words. Kiona was asleep when he got back. Silas set the supplies down quiet, knelt beside the bed. She looked so small, so fragile, but he knew better. She was steel underneath, forged by fire and loss, just like him. He mixed the medicine. Following the instructions Marshall had scrawled, when Kiona woke, he made her drink it. She grimaced at the taste. Horrible, it'll help. You promise? I promise. She took another sip, then set the cup aside. Did you see Mercer? No. But he's making moves. Pressuring people. Then it's almost time. Yes, Kiona's hand found his. Squeezed, I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What do we do? Silas looked at their joined hands, at the way hers fit perfectly in his. We survive, he said. Whatever it takes. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange blur. Kiona's bleeding stopped. The medicine worked. Or maybe she was just too stubborn to die. Silas preferred to think it was both. They fell into a new routine, quieter, more careful. Silas stayed closer to the cabin, didn't range as far. Kiona rested more, though she hated it. Hated feeling weak. I should be working, she'd say. You are working. You're growing a human. That's not work. Tell that to your body. She'd throw things at him then. Pillows mostly. Once a boot. Silas caught them all. Grinning, those moments felt normal, almost peaceful. But the peace was fragile, built on a foundation they both knew was cracking. Because they both knew the storm was coming. It arrived on a Tuesday. Silas was outside, chopping wood. The rhythmic thunk of the axe keeping time. Kiona called from the doorway. Riders, he looked up. 6 horses. Coming fast, Silas set the axe down. Picked up his rifle. Inside, he said, No, Kiona. I'm not hiding, he wanted to argue. Didn't have time. The riders pulled up. Mercer in front, like before. But this time, Sheriff Caldwell rode beside him, wearing his badge, his gun, looking sick about it. Mercer dismounted. Smooth. Confident, Mr. Brennan, he said. We meet again. Silas said nothing, just kept the rifle pointed. Mercer gestured to Caldwell. The sheriff has something to show you. Caldwell pulled a paper from his coat, handed it to Silas, a writ, legal and official, signed by a territorial judge, ordering the return of one Cheyenne woman. Property of Dalton Mercer failure to comply would result in arrest. Silas read it twice, his blood turning to ice. This is wrong, he said. It's the law, Caldwell replied. Quiet. The law is wrong, that may be. But I have to enforce it. Silas looked at Kiona, at the way she stood, refusing to cower. No, he said. Mercer smiled. I'm sorry, I said no. She's not going with you, Mr. Brennan. You're in violation of a legal order. Step aside or face arrest, then arrest me. Mercer's smile widened. Very well. He nodded to Caldwell. The sheriff stepped forward, reluctant. His hand on his gun. Silas. Don't make me do this. Then don't. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Caldwell's face crumpled. Just for a moment, then he drew. Silas could have shot him. Could have ended it right there. But Caldwell was a good man. Caught in an impossible situation. So Silas lowered his rifle. Caldwell came forward. Slow. Took the rifle from Silas's hands, then the Colt from his belt. I'm sorry, Caldwell whispered. Silas said nothing. Mercer walked past them. Straight to Kian move. She didn't flinch. Hello, my dear, Mercer said, his voice oily. Time to come home. This is my home. No, your home is with me. Where you belong. He reached for her arm. Kiona jerked back, her hand moving to her dress, where Silas had hidden his backup knife. She drew it. Fast. The blade catching light, Mercer stumbled back. Surprised. Don't touch me, Kiona hissed. Mercer's men drew their guns, all four of them. Pointed at Kiona. Drop it, one said. Kiona didn't move. Silas stepped forward, unarmed. Desperate, Kiona. Don't. I'm not going with him. I know. But you can't fight them all. I can try, and you'll die. Along with the baby. That stopped her. Just for a second, Mercer's eyes widened, then narrowed. A baby? He said. Voice cold. How delightful. He looked at Silas. Yours? Does it matter? It does. Because it means she's worth even less now. Kiona's hand shook. Rage and fear warring, Silas moved closer, blocking her from Mercer. Listen to me, he said. Low. Urgent. This isn't over, but you have to survive the baby. For us. Silas, trust me. Please. Their eyes met. Held. Finally, slowly. Kiona lowered the knife. Mercer's men moved in, grabbed her arms. She didn't fight. But she didn't go easy either. As they dragged her toward the horses, she looked back at Silas. Find me, she said. I will. Promise. I promise. Then she was gone. Thrown onto a horse, hands tied. Mercer mounted his own horse. Looked down at Silas. You should have taken my offer, he said. Would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. Silas stared at him. His hands clenched so tight his nails drew blood. This isn't over, he said. Oh, I think it is. Mercer turned his horse. The others following, Caldwell stayed behind. Handed Silas his guns back. I'm sorry, he said again. Silas took them. Said nothing. Mercer has a ranch. 2 days south. That's where he's taking her. Silas looked up. Sharp. Why are you not telling me this? Caldwell met his eyes, 'cause
He said,
I got a daughter. Remember? And if someone took her, I'd want to know where to look. Then he mounted his horse and rode away. Silas stood there, alone. The cabin empty behind him. For a long moment, he just breathed, in and out, trying to keep the rage from consuming him. Then he went inside, started loading his saddlebags, ammunition, dried meat, water, everything he needed, because Sheriff Caldwell was wrong about one thing. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Reverend Finch found him an hour later. The old man rode up, dismounted with a groan. Heard what happened, he said. Silas kept packing. Didn't stop, and I'm coming with you. That made Silas pause. You're 68 years old, exactly. And I can still shoot. This isn't your fight. It's everyone's fight. When injustice happens, good men can't stand by. Silas looked at him. At the determination in those old eyes. You'll slow me down, probably. But you'll need someone to watch your back. I work alone, not anymore. Finch pulled a rifle from his saddle. Old but well-maintained. I'm coming, he said. Simple, final. So you can argue. Or you can let me help. Your choice. Silas wanted to argue. Wanted to send the old man away. But the truth was he didn't want to do this alone. Fine, he said. But you follow my lead, agreed. And if I say run, you run, we'll see. Silas almost smiled. Almost, they finished packing in silence. 2 men, 2 horses. 1 impossible mission, 2 days of hard riding brought them to Mercer's ranch, big, sprawling. A main house, barns, bunkhouses, corrals, money. Lots of it. Silas and Finch watched from a ridge, studying the layout. How many men? Finch asked. 8 that I can see. Probably more inside. Odds aren't good. They never are. Silas pulled out a small spyglass. Scanned the buildings. There, a window on the 2nd floor. Curtains drawn, a shadow moved behind them. Kiona, had to be. She's in the main house, Silas said. 2nd floor. East side, how do we get to her? Silas lowered the glass. Thought the ranch sat in open ground. No cover. No way to approach without being seen. Unless we don't sneak in, Silas said. No? No. We walk in, Finch raised an eyebrow. That's your plan? Mercer wants to talk. Wants to gloat. We give him that chance, and then? Then we take her and run. That's a terrible plan. You got a better one? Finch thought about it, then shook his head. No, but I want it on record. This is a terrible plan. Noted. They rode down. Slow, hands visible. 2 men approached. Armed. Wary, state your business, one called. Here to see Mercer, Silas said. He expecting you? He should be. The men looked at each other. Uncertain, then one shrugged. Wait here, he went inside. Came back a minute later. He'll see you, but you leave your guns. Silas dismounted. Handed over his Colt, his rifle. Finch did the same. The men led them inside. The house was warm. Richly furnished. Paintings on the walls. Thick rugs, blood money, all of it. They were taken to a study, shelves of books. A massive desk. Mercer sat behind it. Smiling, Mr. Brennan, he said. I wondered when you'd arrive. Silas said nothing. Mercer gestured to chairs. Please, sit. I'll stand. Suit yourself. Mercer poured whiskey into a glass. Didn't offer any to Silas. You've come for the woman, Mercer said. Yes. She's not for sale. I'm not buying. I'm taking. Mercer laughed. Rich? Amused, are you now? And how exactly do you plan to do that? However I have to. Mercer's smile faded, his eyes going cold. You're in my house, Mr. Brennan, surrounded by my men, unarmed. And you think you can just take her? Yes. Why? Because she's mine. No. She's mine. I have the papers. Legal right. Silas leaned on the desk, his voice dropping. Papers don't mean anything. She's a person, not property. The law disagrees. Then the law is wrong. Mercer stood, came around the desk. You know what I think? He said. I think you're a fool. A romantic fool who thinks love conquers all. He stepped closer, but it doesn't. Money conquers all. Power, control, that's what matters. You're wrong, am I? Look around, Brennan. I built this. With money. With power. I own land, livestock, people. You don't own Kiona. I own every inch of her. Silas's fist flew before he could think. Connected with Mercer's jaw, the man stumbled back. Shocked, the door burst open, guards rushing in. They grabbed Silas, pinned his arms. Mercer touched his lip. Blood on his fingers. He laughed. There it is, he said. The real Brennan. The violent one. He nodded to his men. Take him to the barn. Let him cool off. They dragged Silas out. Finch following. Protesting, let him go. He didn't mean. Take the old man too. They were thrown into the barn. The doors barred behind them. Silas hit the dirt hard. Rolled to his feet. Finch helped him up. Well, the Reverend said. That went well. Despite everything. Silas almost laughed. Sorry, don't be. I would have done the same. Silas looked around. The barn was dim. Hay bales stacked high. Tools hanging on the walls. And there, in the corner, a pitchfork, not a gun. But better than nothing. We need to get out of here, Silas said. How? The barn had one door, barred from outside. No windows, just gaps in the walls. Silas walked the perimeter, testing boards, looking for weak spots there, near the back. One board loose, he pulled. It gave. Just a little. Pulled harder. It cracked, came free. A gap opened. Just wide enough for a man to squeeze through. Come on, Silas said. They slipped out. Into the fading light, the ranch was quieter now. Most of the men inside. Eating, probably. Silas and Finch crept along the barn wall. Heading for the main house, a guard stepped out of the shadows. Hey, Silas was on him before he could shout. Hand over his mouth. Arm around his neck. The man struggled. Then went limp. Silas lowered him gently. Took his gun. Finch picked up the man's rifle. I thought we were sneaking, he whispered. Change of plans. They moved to the house. Found a side door. Unlocked, inside. Voices from the dining room. Laughter. Silas and Finch went the other way. To the stairs. Up. Slow. Careful. The second floor was quiet. Doors lining a long hallway. Silas tried the first. Locked the second. Empty. The third. It opened. Kiona sat on a bed. Her hands tied in front of her. She looked up. Her eyes went wide. Silas? He crossed to her. Cut the ropes with the guard's knife. Are you hurt? No. Just locked up. Can you walk? Yes, he helped her stand. She swayed. He caught her. The baby? He asked. Still there. I think. Finch appeared in the doorway. We need to go now. They moved into the hall. A door opened behind them. Mercer stepped out. He saw them. His face darkening. Stop them, he shouted. Footsteps. Running. Voices yelling. Silas pushed Kiona toward Finch. Get her out. The back stairs. What about you? I'll hold them off, Silas. Go. Finch hesitated. Then nodded. Took Kiona's arm. They ran. Silas turned. Faced Mercer. Men appeared behind the rancher. 4 of them. Armed. It's over, Brennan. Mercer said. Not yet. Silas raised the stolen gun. You won't shoot, Mercer said. You're not a killer. You don't know what I am. Mercer smiled. Cold. Yes, I do. You're a coward. Just like you were in the war. Just like you'll always be. Silas's finger tightened on the trigger. His hand steady. But he didn't pull it. Because Mercer was right about one thing. Silas wasn't a killer. Not like this. He'd killed in war. In chaos. In fear. But this was different. This was murder. And he wouldn't cross that line. He lowered the gun. Mercer's smile widened. I knew it. Silas looked at him. Really looked. You're right, he said quietly. I'm not a killer, he turned. But I'm also not staying. Then he ran. Behind him. Shots fired. Wood splintered. Bullets tearing through the walls. Silas dove down the back stairs. Hit the bottom hard. Finch and Kiona were at the door. Waiting. Move, Silas shouted. They burst outside. Into the cold horses. They needed horses. The stable was across the yard. Exposed. No choice, they ran more shots. Closer now. A bullet whined past Silas's ear. They reached the stable, threw open the doors. Grabbed the first 3 horses they saw. Silas lifted Kiona onto one. She grabbed the mane, held on. Finch mounted. Clumsy but determined. Silas swung up on the third. Ride, he shouted. They kicked the horses. Hard the animals bolted. Out of the stable. Across the yard. Men poured from the house. Shooting. A bullet caught Silas's shoulder. Burning. Tearing. He gasped. Nearly fell. Held on. They hit the open plain. The ranch falling behind. But the pursuit didn't stop. 6 riders. Maybe more. Gaining, Silas looked back. Saw Mercer in front, his face twisted with rage. They rode hard, the horses straining, foaming. But Mercer's men had fresh mounts, better animals. They were catching up. Silas looked ahead. A line of trees, maybe a mile, if they could reach it. Lose themselves in the forest. Maybe there, he shouted. Pointing, Kiona and Finch saw. Urged their horses faster. The trees got closer behind them. The riders closing. Gunshots. Closer now, Silas's shoulder screamed. Blood soaking his shirt, but he didn't stop. They plunged into the forest. Branches whipping, behind them. The riders crashed through. Silas led them deeper. Following a creek, his vision started to blur. The blood loss catching up. He swayed in the saddle. Silas. Kiona's voice. Distant, he tried to answer. Couldn't. The world tilted, he fell. Hit the ground hard, darkness, then. Voices, not Mercer's men. Different voices. Silas forced his eyes open. Sheriff Caldwell stood over him. 5 other riders behind him. Easy, son, Caldwell said. You're safe. Silas tried to sit up. Couldn't, Kiona, he managed. She's fine. The Reverend's got her. Caldwell looked past him. At the forest. Mercer, he shouted. The rancher appeared. On horseback. His men behind him. This doesn't concern you, Sheriff, Mercer said. It does when you cross into my territory. Firing weapons. Endangering lives. I have a legal writ. I don't care. You're in my jurisdiction now. And I say it's over. Mercer looked around. At Caldwell's men. At his own. You're making a mistake, Mercer said. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Caldwell looked at Finch. At Kiona. Go, he said. Get him patched up. Before I change my mind. Finch didn't need to be told twice. He and Kiona helped Silas onto a horse behind them. Mercer shouted, This isn't over. Caldwell's voice carried, Yes, it is. 3 days later, Silas woke in a bed. Clean sheets. Soft pillow, sunlight through a window. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then pain hit. Sharp in his shoulder. Not dead. Definitely not dead. He turned his head. Saw Kiona sitting beside the bed. She was asleep, her head on her arms. One hand resting on her stomach. Silas reached out, touched her hair. She woke. Gasped, Silas, hey. She threw her arms around him. Careful of his shoulder, you're awake. Finally, how long? 3 days, damn. Where are we? Ridge Creek. Reverend Finch's house. Silas looked around, small room. Simple. Clean. The baby? Fine. Still there, and Mercer? Kiona's face hardened, dead, went still. What, they found him? 2 days ago. At his ranch? How? His own men. They turned on him, fought over money. Over the ranch. He got caught in the middle. She met his eyes. It's over, Silas. We're free. Silas pulled her close. Ignored the pain. We're free, he repeated. 6 months later, spring came early that year. The snow melted. Green pushing through brown. Silas and Kiona returned to the cabin. It looked the same. Waiting, they went inside. Together, we should add a room, Kiona said. Her hand on her rounded belly. For the baby? For our family, Silas smiled. Kissed her. Outside, birds sang. Inside, a new life was beginning. September 1868. The baby came in the night. A girl. Perfect. Screaming, Kiona lay exhausted. Beautiful. Silas held his daughter, his hand shaking. What do we call her? Kiona asked. Silas looked at the tiny face, the dark eyes. We call her Hope. Kiona smiled. Yes. Hope, outside, the world turned. Inside, 3 people became a family, and Silas Brennan. The man who'd lived alone, who'd thought he'd die alone, held his daughter and wept. For the first time in years, not from pain, but from joy.